Tonight, fraud allegations at LHSC. The hospital launches legal action against several former executives and contractors seeking tens of millions in damages. Plus,
you're not going nowhere, bud.
Police lay impaired charges after an ill-advised parking lot exit. And draft day ready.
Yeah, just trying to soak it all up and trying not to take it for granted.
The local ball player getting closer to his big league dreams.
CTV News with Carlyle Fiset.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with major legal action by one of Ontario's largest hospitals. London Health Sciences Centre is suing former employees and contractors in a civil fraud case, saying they cost the organization tens of millions of dollars. Rita Ismail reports.
It's being called one of the most serious breaches of trust in the hospital's history. London Health Sciences Centre is taking legal action over what it says was a decade-long scheme to defraud the public institution. In a civil lawsuit filed in Ontario Superior Court, LHSC is seeking more than $50 million in damages from several former employees, including executive Deepesh Patel, Derek Lal, and Neil Modi, along with contractor Paresh Sunny and construction firms BH Contractors and GBI Construction. The claim accuses the group of manipulating procurement processes, inflating invoices, and awarding contracts to companies with secret ties, actions that LHSC says amount to civil fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. Patel, the former vice president of facilities, is alleged to have steered millions in contracts to companies linked to Sunny, his close associate, without disclosing conflict of interest. One company alone, BH Contractors, reportedly received nearly $30 million, including $21 million for a window replacement project. LHSC says that project cost $10 million more than independent estimates. Investigators also point to suspicious real estate activity. Patel is set to control at least 22 properties, most purchased after key contracts were awarded. Sunny is linked to 43 properties valued at nearly $14 million. LHSC has also filed a second $10 million lawsuit, this time against 3 former executives and a consulting firm it accuses of turning a blind eye to the misconduct. Former CEO Jackie Schleifler-Taylor, CFO Abhi Mukherjee, and executive Bradley Campbell are accused of ignoring a 2022 report that flagged potential fraud and failing to notify auditors or the board of directors. In a letter to the community, LHSC Supervisor David Mouchet called the revelations deeply disappointing, writing, "It's not who we are at LHSC. We are doing the work to make sure this never happens again." The hospital says the findings have been turned over to London Police and all involved are no longer employed at LHSC. None of the allegations have been tested in court. Rita Ismail, CTV News.
And London Police Chief Ty Trong issued a statement late this afternoon confirming police are actively investigating allegations of fraud involving London Health Sciences Centre, saying our financial crime unit is dedicated to conducting a thorough, fair and meticulous investigation. Understanding complex financial crime cases often require substantial time and resources to reach completion. St. Thomas police say they've charged a man after what they call a disturbance at St. Thomas Elgin General. Police say they were called to the emergency room early Tuesday morning. They say a man was throwing garbage cans and lit a fire inside a washroom. Police say a 28-year-old man from St. Thomas is charged with arson as well as mischief and uttering threats. Emergency crews responded to a 2-story house fire downtown this morning. Lauren Stallone has more on the firefighting efforts and the rescue operation, getting one trapped occupant to safety.
Emergency crews responded to a 2-story house fire at 458 King Street on Wednesday afternoon in London.
We were in the kitchen getting ready to make dinner. I got some friends over for dinner, and all of a sudden we heard some woman yelling fire.
One resident says he is thankful for the pedestrian that walked by and noticed the flames, but is heartbroken by the loss of his home.
Scared. I don't know what to expect when I go inside.
The London Fire Department says they were able to gain control of the fire upon arrival.
All occupants except for one on the second floor was able to make it out safely. We had to raise a ground ladder, and a fire crew had to assist that gentleman off the second floor because he was trapped by the fire.
London Fire says occupants were assessed by EMS and no one was taken to hospital.
I have to work with the tenants to make sure that anybody that's displaced has a place to go for the day.
They say while the cause of the fire is unknown, it is believed to have started outside. Lauren Stallone, CTV News.
Emergency responders were called to a reported carbon monoxide leak in south central London this afternoon. They say a woman, child and baby were taken to hospital from a home on Nicholas Crescent. They say they had all made it out of the home before crews arrived, but the woman and child were showing signs of carbon monoxide exposure.
Good evening. We have some severe weather moving through the area. Severe thunderstorm watch in effect in through Huron and Perth County, as well as Grey Bruce, Lambton County under that watch and stretching towards Chatham, Kent. Satellite radar showing some of these thunderstorm cells that have been developing. Now, Environment Canada briefly issued a tornado warning in through parts of southern Grey County. You can see out over the lake, we do have some thunderstorms that are developing and will be pushing into the region. Right now, it's 25 degrees in the city, feeling close to 32. There is a 60% chance of scattered showers and thunderstorms over the next couple of hours. I know many of you are planning to head out for your outdoor activities. Be prepared. We could see a few thunderstorms. Now, the one that looks like it's coming into the London area is weakening, so we could get away with just a bit of a sprinkle. Light winds and the temperature at about 17 degrees at midnight. Coming up, I'll take you through your extended forecast and we'll look ahead to the weekend.
Thank you, Julie. A London city councillor has arranged a public meeting for later this month addressing traffic concerns in Old North. Last month, a school crossing guard was seriously injured by a driver at Colburn and St. James Street. Councillor Sam Trossow says that intersection should be converted to a four-way stop at minimum. Currently, it just features a pedestrian crosswalk. The public meeting is scheduled for July 23rd. It's also expected to address other Old North intersections the councillor says are at risk because of suburban growth.
Much of it is due to the development on the outskirts. People are looking for routes that they can cut through. They understandably don't want to take Oxford or Wonderland or Richmond, so they will figure out where they can cut through in the neighborhood. And I think that creates just more of a general peril.
President Donald Trump has suggested he may implement a 50% tariff on imported copper, which could have serious economic consequences in Canada. More than half of our copper exports go to the States. With the latest on Trump's tariff threats, here's Mike Lecouture.
U.S. President Donald Trump released another batch of tariff letters to more trading partners. They include Brunei and Libya, and the tariff rate ranges from 20 to 30%. Now, Canada isn't included in this batch, but the government continues to watch after Trump said he'd impose 50% tariffs on copper imports.
When it comes to the latest declaration from the president in the United States, we have not yet seen an executive order.
Industry Minister Melanie Joly says the government is watching closely to see if Canada is affected by any more trade action from the United States. It is worth noting a 50% tariff on Canadian copper would be significant. Of the $9.3 billion worth of exports in 2023, more than half went to the U.S. The next two biggest destinations for Canadian copper were China and Japan. Trade experts say instead of forcing countries to make deals, U.S. tariffs are creating new economic alliances that actually exclude the U.S. And that could be bad for the American economy. And Canadian lawmakers say the goal is to get a deal that works for workers in this country.
My job right now is to make sure that in the context of this trade war, I'm supporting the front lines of this trade war, which are the workers and the companies affected by the unjustifiable and unjustified tariffs.
And the clock is ticking. Canada's self-imposed deadline to hammer out an economic and security deal with the U.S. is July 21st. Mike Lecouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
A new report on Canada's military spending plans suggests buying more from Europe may lead to further economic retaliation from the U.S. As Judy Trin reports, a balancing act will likely be required.
About 75% of the military equipment Canada uses comes from the United States. To reduce reliance, the Prime Minister signed a security pact with the European Union last month.
Our strategic Canada-EU or EU-Canada strategic partnership for the future will build a new and deeper relationship.
That new partnership with the EU could put Canada in the retaliatory crosshairs of the Americans, according to a new report written by former Canadian defense and security officials.
The U.S. might respond in a negative way and start canceling U.S. contracts to Canadian companies.
One pressing matter, the F-35s. Canada has paid for 16 American fighter jets. The government is evaluating if it should turn to the Swedish Gripen fighter instead for the rest of its order. But the U.S. ambassador has warned against doing that.
Canadians are flying one airplane. We're flying another airplane. It's no longer interchangeable. And so, that might even threaten NORAD.
The EU defense partnership also gives Canadian companies access to European markets. But the report's authors note some members can veto trade deals.
If you look at our free trade agreement that we have with Europe, a number of countries within Europe still have not ratified it.
The Europeans need critical minerals to build its defense capability. The report highlights regulatory barriers in provinces like BC, which could delay projects by years.
The authors stipulate that in the face of economic threats that could continue beyond the Trump administration, turning to European allies to help safeguard Canadian sovereignty isn't just a bold move, it's a necessary one. Judy Trin, CTV News, Ottawa.
Officials with a local conservation authority say thousands of homes and cottages are under increasing erosion risk along Great Lakes shores. As Scott Miller reports, efforts to naturally slow things down are underway, but moving homes from the water's edge is also on the table.
The eroding shores of Lake Huron have put more than 1,700 homes, cottages, and other structures worth nearly $750 million at risk, according to the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority.
So $750 million of assets that we all care about and own, and that's what's at risk here. So it's a big number.
Some structures and a road have already had to be moved away from the crumbling bluffs, and more structures will have to be moved in the very near future due to erosion, says the Conservation Authority, some for the second time.
Unfortunately, we can look at those numbers and just do the simple math and say, well, in the next 25 years, the road will probably be gone, let alone the house. So before that, the house is going to have to be moved again. That's what you want to plan for.
Planned relocation of homes and cottages perched atop Lake Huron's bluffs is an unpopular topic, but creating a ready-to-go user guide for municipalities to deal with these potentially dangerous situations is one of the main focuses of the Maitland Conservation Authority's new Southern Lake Huron Coastal Adaptation Strategy, recently launched in Goderich.
Nobody wants to move, especially if you got front row seat, we know that the lake shore is going to erode in time. And it's just, what do we do about it?
While hardening stretches of shoreline with armor stone and steel walls has temporarily helped some, it's created worse erosion elsewhere. So, as part of naturally strengthening the shoreline, the Conservation Authority is trying out a pilot project that would take the yearly dredgings of sediment and sand from the Goderich Harbor and Marina and move it south of Goderich to create an erosion buffer or artificial reef at the base of an eroding portion of shoreline near the 300-home coast development. That pilot project could start as soon as next year.
I think a lot of people are watching this in Southern Ontario, and hopefully it will lead to more projects like this in the future.
So will these new measures stop erosion along the Lake Huron shoreline? The simple answer is no. Really, the best case scenario is that erosion is slowed, or the pace of erosion is at least slowed along the Lake Huron shoreline. But in the end, nature is going to win.
Without addressing it, it will only either continue or accentuate. And by addressing it, we can slow it down. We cannot mitigate it to stop. We can slow it down.
I don't think we have enough money to build a wall to keep that lake from eroding that shoreline. So it's going to happen. How do we do that? How do we do that fairly and equitably? But the reality is that we're not going to stop the lake.
In Huron County, Scott Miller, CTV News.
Day 2 of Rock the Park, and tonight country music takes over the stage. And for more on the festivities, we head to Harris Park and join Nick Paparella live. Nick, over to you.
And Carlyle, you're right. It is the second night of Rock the Park here at Harris Park, the first of 2 country nights. I'm joined now by the morning crew from Pure Country, Leanne and TJ. And Leanne, a big-time lineup tonight.
Oh, my gosh. First of all, I have to say, we were following Julie Atchison and what was going to happen with the weather. It turned out to be a gorgeous night down here. We had Maggie Antone on stage just after 4 o'clock to kick things off. Waylon Wyatt just wrapped up. Baker Blankenship, Wyatt Flores are going to be hitting the stage in just a little bit. And then tonight, this is a huge get for Rock the Park. At the ACM Awards earlier this year, the Red Clay Strays won the award for Best New Duo or Group of the Year, and they're going to be on stage just after 9:30. I cannot wait to see them.
All right, that's great. And TJ, another big-time night on Saturday night.
Lee Bryce, Owen Rigling, the Rec Laws. Of course, Lone Star is going to be there. If you've ever been to a wedding before, you've heard Lone Star's Amaze. It's like everyone's wedding song. It's going to be such a fantastic night. Hopefully, Julie puts out the good energy and we get some good weather as well. Also, if you are heading to the show on Saturday, make sure you find Pure Country 93. We're going to have a really cool tent set up, and you might be upgraded to VIP, which is big news, Nick, because they have a special bathroom in VIP.
All right, perfect. And Leanne, I mean, Rock the Park, right downtown London. I mean, a ton of people come out. Brad Jones was saying, you know, they expect over the 5 nights, 40,000 people. I mean, always a wonderful time.
You know, summer has officially arrived here in the Forest City when you see the team start to set up here at Harris Park for Rock the Park. Brad Jones and Jones Entertainment Group, they do such a phenomenal job every single year. There's so many food trucks here tonight. The beers are flowing. Everybody's having a good time. Summer has officially arrived.
And for you, TJ, you're relatively new to London. What do you think of this music festival?
Nick, I'm not going to exaggerate. It takes a lot to make me leave the house and put pants on, but Rock the Park is a can't-miss event for me every single year. It's my favorite thing that we do in the city. It's this world-class event. You have to come down and check it out if you haven't yet. It's actually one of my favorite things we do all year.
All right. The weather is great. The music is great. Rock the Park back night 2 and continues until Saturday.
All right, Nick Paparella live for us tonight at Harris Park. Nick, thanks so much. When we come back, a local ball player and his bid for the big leagues, expecting to hear his name called during the MLB draft.
Download the CTV News app and stay on top of local stories as they unfold.
We begin tonight with Ontario's latest.
Customize your feed and watch live wherever you are. CTVLondon.ca, your home for news.
Welcome back. A local baseball prospect is expected to hear his name called during the upcoming Major League Baseball draft. With more on his journey from small-town Midwestern Ontario to potentially the big leagues, here's Brent Lale.
Carry. Tyson Moran is making his way up the draft boards of major league teams.
He just hasn't stopped hitting.
As the MLB draft approaches this week, the second baseman from Wingham is ranked by some as a mid-round pick.
I haven't really been a highly touted prospect over the years until recently, so yeah, just trying to soak it all up and trying not to take it for granted.
Moran has elevated his game over the past year and is described by his coaches as determined.
It's a 2-hour drive, and he's the first kid here 4 days a week. So he wants to work. He appreciates the opportunity he's been given, and guys like that tend to succeed in this game.
Yeah, go!
It started in March on a trip to Arizona playing professional competition that he just absolutely demolished and hasn't really stopped since then. So easy to root for kid. The makeup is great. He's going to.
During that trip, he hit 2 home runs against the Cleveland Guardians. Every time he plays, scouts are keeping a close eye.
It is really cool to kind of interact with some of the scouts, especially with me going down to Arizona. That kind of environment was really cool. I'm playing against a bunch of pro guys. Just realizing that could be me in the next couple of years. I try not to think about that too much.
He really had a kind of a coming out, so to speak, in last fall, and
was this Futures Game MVP there for the Toronto Blue Jays showcase, which is a big deal from across the country. He's an exciting player. There's going to be people here in professional organizations watching him play like they have been all spring.
He's committed to North Dakota State University, but has dreams of playing professionally. With the new 20-round draft, only half as many prospects are getting picked compared to previous years, but Moran should be one of them.
That's kind of my goal right now, obviously, but it would be something I would never forget.
Brent Lale, CTV News.
The National Hockey League and Players Union have ratified a collective bargaining agreement extension. The extension removes the possibility of any lockout or strike through 2030. The tentative agreement was announced last month, which will introduce a longer regular season, soon to be 84 games. It also includes shorter maximum contract lengths, a playoff salary cap, and no mandatory dress code for players. Canada's national rugby team will take on a pair of European opponents in the next week, hosted in Edmonton. With more on their preparations and the Alberta athletes wearing the maple leaf on home turf, here's Amanda Anderson.
Check. Getting to play rugby wasn't easy for Dia Voltkotza, growing up in Grande Cache, Alberta.
We had a sevens team, so we had that for a year or two, but not a lot of rugby in a small town, more of a hockey town, of course.
Unable to kick his passion for the game, his parents would drive him to Edmonton to play.
4 hours one way, 4 hours back, so I owe a lot to them. They helped me to get where I am today.
Today, he's preparing to represent Canada as the men's rugby team kicks off its 2025 season at Clark Stadium in Edmonton.
But I'm glad I stuck with it because being able to be with the boys and represent this country is incredible.
Two other local men, Brock Gallagher and Austin Creighton, also made the Canadian squad.
That's every kid's dream, growing up playing this sport, right? So yeah, just trying to make dreams come to reality here.
The team will take on Belgium Saturday, then go head-to-head with Spain the following Friday. Games head coach Stephen Meehan says are important.
They give us the opportunity to test out some systems and also look at some combinations in regards to, inside the team, with our players. It gives the players the opportunity to sort of feel their way, but, ultimately, you want to make a winning start.
A winning start, Meehan hopes, will give players momentum. They need to beat the U.S. in August to qualify for a spot in the Men's Rugby World Cup.
I think it was the first time that Canada had missed out in 2023. But this is our first game together. So, we've had to make some changes to try and give ourselves the best opportunity, to get back in.
As the team prepares to tackle the season, the local players are looking forward to starting in front of a hometown crowd.
You want the support, you want your people behind you, backing you.
The pressure helps you play better, at least in my mind. And I think also just when I have people I know in this crowd, it makes me want to play harder or better.
Tickets for both upcoming games are still available. Amanda Anderson, CTV News, Edmonton.
Back now on the desk with Julie Atchison, our meteorologist, might have some not as great news now. Things are changing as they are wont to do in the weather desk when it comes to our Rock the Park forecast for tonight at least.
Well, in terms of our forecast today, we had a 60% chance of showers and thunderstorms popping up.
Coming in.
Yeah. So the ones that I am tracking right now, they are weakening significantly, but that doesn't mean we won't get through the next couple of hours without seeing a storm develop. Now, we do have a severe thunderstorm watch in effect. As you can see, the area is in yellow, and a severe thunderstorm warning just issued in through northern Wellington County. So that includes Mount Forest and Arthur as a severe storm makes the move through that area. Satellite radar showing why that storm warning was issued. You can see northern Wellington County dealing with some strong storm action. But this is what I wanted to show you. You can really start to see the weakening of some of these storm cells, the one that's coming towards the London area. Now, just in the last few minutes, it is showing signs of some re-intensification. So keeping an eye on that. This will be moving through in the next hour or so, an hour and a half, and hopefully by the time it moves into London, it'll be weakening even more. So hopefully we'll get through the evening without storms, but we likely will see a little bit of light rainfall out of these thunderstorms that are pushing through. Now, we had a warm front come through this morning, and that's why we saw the heavy rainfall. So we had heavy rain in parts of the region, especially along the northern shoreline of Lake Erie, and that extended into London. Heavy downpours, lots of moisture to work with. 25 and 16 are our numbers for the day, exactly where we should be for this time of year. Cooler spots indicated by recent showers and thunderstorms. Now it's quite muggy and it will remain warm through the late evening. Not a big drop off in temperature overnight, so some warm conditions expected. This is the warm front that came through earlier. It continues to drive northward, and this little weak cold front, this is going to brush its way through tonight. So that's why we're seeing active weather sparking across the area. When you get a warm front that moves northward, you see an area of rain usually out ahead of that frontal boundary, and that's what was happened this morning. And then into the warm sector, that's the instability. The air is rising, and then you get some cooler air aloft, and that sparks the active weather. Now across Canada tonight, there are widespread warnings have been issued in parts of the prairies. Everything from severe thunderstorms to heat warnings to air quality to smoke advisories. It's a busy day across Western Canada. 24 and through Thunder Bay, and then as we head out east tonight, Halifax coming in at 22. But you can see that big pocket of warmth and through the American Midwest. Some intense heat has arrived. There's the watches and warnings indicated. You can see this gray area, the only one we don't have showing on our legend tonight, and that's the smoke advisories that are in effect. Temperatures will hold into the upper teens overnight, anywhere from 16 to 18 degrees. If you're near Lake Erie tonight, 19 to 20. So this forecast model is showing that storm coming into London between now and about 8 p.m. So expecting some rainfall, and you can see that line crossing toward the GTA. And then as we head through the overnight, just partly cloudy, waking up tomorrow morning to some sunshine. Your forecast for your Thursday looks beautiful. A mix of sun and cloud expected right through the afternoon. Probability of showers just a 30% chance for your Thursday. So if you are heading out to Rock the Park tomorrow, a mix of sun and cloud as we carry through the afternoon, and 28 degrees, but feeling close to the mid 30s. Our Metal Roof Outlet forecast for your Friday, a mix of sun and cloud and 29, heating up on Saturday to 31. Looks like some showers moving in on Saturday evening. So a 40% chance during the day, 60% chance at night. A little bit of measurable rainfall Saturday night into Sunday. Mix of sun and cloud Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Feeling the late summer heat, or the midsummer heat, I guess, with daytime highs 29 to 30 degrees. Midwestern Ontario, a chance for showers tomorrow on the lower end for you. Next opportunity for rainfall will come in as we head into Saturday night and Sunday, although the probability is on the lower end as you head further north, but looking hot and humid over the coming days and heating up as we head into the weekend. Carlyle?
Julie, thanks very much. Still ahead, with many Canadians unwilling to buy American, Amazon makes a tactical shift for Prime Days. Representatives with the Ontario Public Service Employees Union say nearly 10,000 college faculty and staff have either been let go or are set to lose their jobs amid province-wide funding cuts. With more on their concerns, here's Siobhan Morris.
We'll be back! College faculty, staff, and students raising their voices to draw attention to a crisis they believe is flying under the radar.
We're seeing one of the largest mass layoffs in Ontario's history, with at least 10,000 job cuts by the end of this year.
I got redeployed. People like Sarah MacArthur-Timofew.
My position was to focus on evidence-based data from the labor market to determine which programs actually needed more enrollment. Hilarious, right?
More than 650 programs have been cut or scaled back at Ontario colleges. For those still on the job, the uncertainty is unsettling.
I can't plan my future or find things to look forward to, because my present is a hamster wheel that feels like it's spinning off a cliff.
Students are feeling that stress, unsure if their own programs will be dropped.
Working conditions and studying conditions are being affected day in and day out.
The minister in charge puts the blame squarely with the federal government, which dramatically reduced the number of international students allowed into Canada.
We are saddened by the news of these layoffs, but there is the right sizing and rebalancing that is going on with less international students going into our post-secondary sector.
While the post-secondary sector has been pleading with the province for a cash infusion, Quinn defends the money going out the door.
In the last 14 months, funding for the post-secondary sector is the highest it's ever been in Ontario's history.
The funding far short of what a government-appointed panel recommended, and there are questions about how funding is being spent.
There are college presidents collecting salaries of over $400,000, even $600,000. That's more than the Prime Minister of Canada.
The province is consulting on how the sector's funded this summer and into early fall, but it's not clear when or if changes might come.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
American tech firm Nvidia is now the world's most valuable company. It's the first public company to ever top $4 trillion U.S. in value. Shares rose 2.5% today, topping $164 each. Just 2.5 years ago, those shares were trading at $14 apiece. Nvidia's explosive rise in value has been faster than both Apple and Microsoft, the only other U.S. companies with market values above $3 trillion. Online retailing giant Amazon is seemingly trying to capitalize on Canada's recent wave of patriotic pride. As Jack Richardson reports, the company is pushing Canadian-made products for Prime Days.
Brockville resident Jim Coolin generally prefers to do his shopping at home.
COVID's changed my buying habits. I find it easier to shop online.
But he's also trying to buy Canadian and says finding local products can be a challenge online.
If I need a particular thing, and if it's not Canadian made and I need it, I'm going to have to pay for it.
This year, one of the largest online shopping events, Amazon Prime Day, is making it easier for shoppers looking for made-in-Canada products, with an entire section called the Canada Showcase.
I use Amazon and Prime, but I don't do much for the Prime Days. But if I had a choice to pick Canadian, I absolutely would.
They have a lot more Canadian products, Canadian vendors that are being profiled.
Amazon Prime has more than 200 million members across the world. The American-based company taking note of consumer trends.
I think they've read the room and realized Canadians are fairly patriotic right now based on what's happening between ourselves and the United States.
But is it enough to gain the business of people trying to keep their money in Canada? According to Coolin, it is.
I think that is absolutely, yeah. It's time that we look after ourselves.
Prime Day is taking place until Friday, running for 4 days this year instead of 2. Jack Richardson, CTV News, Brockville.
Strength in the basic materials sector helped Canada's main stock index finish higher. The TSX up 69 points. In New York, the Dow added 218. The Nasdaq climbed 193. The Canadian dollar fell 1/10 cent today. On commodity markets, gold gained more than $4 an ounce. Oil is up a nickel a barrel. Coming up, a daycare deadline at risk. The latest on the $10 a day program and the likelihood it will take longer to fully implement. Welcome back. London police say they've charged a driver accused of trying to exit a parking lot in an unusual fashion while impaired. Brian Bicknell has more on the video evidence and the witness tips leading to an arrest.
When leaving a parking lot, it's customary to drive through the exit lane with the lift gate. But video posted to social media shows the driver of a pickup truck on Saturday drive into a concrete barrier at a private lot on Carlyle Street, pushing the structure out into the street. Aaron Nava arrived shortly after this event.
And I turned the corner, and there's this giant concrete block in the middle of the road with this large vehicle just driven right over top of it, with the block stuck underneath the tires. And there are these huge drag marks across the floor.
But if there's any good news in any of this, it's that a number of people saw the whole thing go down. They witnessed this unorthodox parking lot situation here on Carlyle Street, and they contacted police. And police say that is exactly what they want. Officers came within moments. A 43-year-old Southwold woman was charged with a number of impaired driving-related offenses and failing to remain at the scene.
This situation could have been even more dangerous had she made her way into the roadway and continued on. Thanks to tips from members of the public, we were able to get there very quickly and arrest an impaired driver.
Everyone was looking, and this woman was in the middle of the street next to her vehicle, just getting asked questions and shouting back at people and walking back and forth.
While this incident happened in a private lot, the city's manager of parking says enforcement officers are kept on their toes in public parking situations as well.
We see creativity across the board, but our primary focus is, again, community safety through the enforcement of the regulations, but achieving voluntary compliance of those regulations prior to any enforcement.
The driver of the pickup truck has a court date set for
for August 11th. Brian Bicknell, CTV News.
A new report on the federal government's $10 a day childcare program suggests it won't be fully implemented before a deadline set for next year. As Rachel Aiello reports, several provinces and territories are meeting the targets, but it's not nearly universal.
Like, oh my God, like, what are we gonna do?
Patty Dunn is nervous. Getting her daughter Harper into daycare was no small feat.
I put ourselves on the wait list when I was about 10 weeks pregnant.
And now, with a second on the way?
I don't know what this means for us. Like, just because we have a spot already, does that mean that we'll have a higher chance of getting our next baby in?
Compounding this stress, living in Ontario, it still costs $22 for every day Harper is at daycare. And while it's better than what it was, she says getting that cost down to $10?
It would honestly give us, like, that peace of mind.
She's not alone. A new report out today found that while costs are coming down across the country, governments have more work to do to get to $10 a day nationwide by next year. 6 provinces and territories have already met or exceeded the federal target. None of it Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Quebec, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland and Labrador. But there are still 5 provinces where care costs more: British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia.
Although people think of this as a $10 a day program Canada-wide, that's the aim. How it's implemented is the thing that makes the difference.
It's not just parents feeling the program's growing pains. It's daycare providers too, because while fees are dropping, demand isn't.
Right now I have over 1,200 parents or children waiting on the list with only 500 spaces, and my 500 spaces are full.
Today, a spokesperson for the federal families minister touted the $27 billion investment to support province and territories in delivering more affordable childcare, and said the government continues to work with them to deliver on that promise. While that work continues, moms like Patty just want to see more spaces opening up as soon as possible.
It would help to, like, alleviate, like, the stress.
Experts say in order to create those spaces, all levels of government need to work together to build up the early childhood educator workforce, which will take years. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meanwhile, parents in Stratford say since the $10 a day program took effect, demand has soared, leaving hundreds of families without safe or affordable options. With more on those concerns, here's Alexandra Hollick.
Since he was born, 4-year-old Xander has been on a wait list for childcare.
He goes to school in September and he's still on the wait list.
His parents, Jason Davis and Lariah Miller, say they signed him up for every eligible licensed program in Stratford and Perth County, exploring home care options when they didn't hear back.
The first one we put Xander in, he was starting to come home with unexplained bruises.
They pulled him out, and they say the facility was shut down.
We did find one that was very good, but that came at a very high price.
That spot for 4 days a week, we're looking at about $800 to $1,000 a month.
Xander's family isn't alone. The city of Stratford says more than 850 kids are on the wait list for the only city-run childcare facility.
The number, including the county and the city of Stratford, is over 3,000.
It's really a systematic failure.
Jamie Lee Wagler is a licensed childcare provider and runs her own half-day nursery school.
It's not that childcares are picking and choosing people to come in. It's not that the city of Stratford is managing this wait list horribly. What it is there's not enough spaces for children.
Wagler says since the $10 a day childcare program came in, demand has skyrocketed.
They promise all these spaces, but the educators aren't treated as fairly as they should be. The spaces aren't opening up, and the funding is lacking so much that we can't just open spaces.
She says parents and educators need to speak up.
This isn't just a family crisis. The whole economic field relies on childcare to keep that going.
The city of Stratford says it feels parents' pain and plans to open nearly 100 new childcare spaces soon.
We are working towards that goal of 37% access, which is the province's provincial target.
But even if the city meets that goal, 63% of kids will still be without care.
We don't deserve to have to make these sacrifices, whether they're personal or financial, but unfortunately, it's just what we have to do as parents. So,
Alexandra Hollick, CTV News, Stratford.
Showers and thunderstorms can lead to some beautiful pictures after. Thank you so much, Kim, for sending this photo in. A great one to share today. Heading into your Thursday, clearing conditions and feeling like the mid-30s. The heat is on this weekend. Daytime highs are set to climb to 30-plus degrees as we head into Saturday, and we have the chance for showers over the weekend.
A property in London's far south end has been recommended for the city's new police fire training centre, approved in the municipal budget. However, as Daryl Newcomb reports, the rural location is raising some concerns.
This farm field near the W12A landfill in South London is a recommended location to build London's emergency services campus, a training centre for London Police, the fire department, and more.
It's land that the city owns, which is significant cost savings. It's also near the W12A landfill, which means it's not in a populated area and has really quick access to the 401, 402 corridors.
A consultant's feasibility study and review of city-owned properties narrowed the search to two properties that make up the buffer around the landfill. The 129 acres at 3243 Manning Drive would be developed in stages to include training facilities for police and fire, London's next generation 911 call center, a new municipal emergency operations center, a shooting range for police, a new burn tower for firefighters, as well as a provincial hazmat response unit. But area resident Alan Tipping says rural communities in that area must be considered, especially if smoke will be emitted when firefighters are training.
I get to smell the landfill here on my property. There's a community right beside this property, basically, called Glanworth, that's going to be subject to this.
There are two significant planning principles council will have to consider about this site. First, located on the extreme south end of London, this is well outside the urban growth boundary. And second, these are prime agricultural lands. The staff report going to a council committee explains that prime agricultural lands can be developed if alternative locations have been evaluated and there are no reasonable alternative locations which avoid prime agricultural areas.
I think there's always concerns when you have to go outside the urban growth boundary and build on prime agricultural land. In this case, there's not much of a choice but to do so. When you think about the fact that we don't have a parcel of land this size that is appropriate within the urban growth boundary.
Funding for the emergency services campus came forward in the police budget and was approved by council. But the mayor believes that the provincial and federal governments could become co-funders if additional facilities related to regional public safety are included on the campus.
I've had ongoing and active discussions with provincial ministers and our federal MPs about this, and those are progressing really well.
A report about the proposed location will be in front of the Infrastructure and Corporate Services Committee on July 16th. Daryl Newcomb, CTV News.
Teams in Texas are searching for more than 160 people still believed missing after last week's devastating floods.
We will not stop until every missing person is accounted for.
Thousands of staff and volunteers are combing through the destruction. Search and rescue teams from all over the country are on the ground in Texas. There's also been increasing scrutiny over decisions made about when to issue warnings and whether more should have been done. The Texas governor has said a special session will be convened next month to investigate the response and provide relief funding.
London's top stories.
We have breaking news tonight out of Ottawa. The latest in the
breaking news alerts.
I'm tracking an area of severe weather. It'll start.
And watch live.
A development now to a story from City Hall we brought you.
Download the CTV News app.
Finally tonight, a woman on Vancouver Island determined to impact the world with the help of her knitting needles. As Adam Sawatsky reports, her tiny projects have raised tens of thousands of dollars for people living in war zones.
To appreciate why Birgitta wears one particular pin wherever she goes.
And I have been knitting them now for 3 years.
We need to go back 80 years to the Second World War when Birgitta was awoken by a bang.
The bomb came and blew our windows out.
Before a large crowd gathered to gawk at the aftermath, little Birgitta and her brother were alone, facing flames rising from a hole in their bedroom floor.
And I said, I can't move, I can't move.
It was just fear. You were stuck with fear.
Absolutely stuck with fear.
Although her brother was just 2 years older, he ran to her rescue.
And so he held my hand and we walked out.
Brigida lost her home that day, and by the time she'd reached elementary school, had also lost both her parents.
You had difficulties and you just had to try and learn to cope with them.
Like when Brigida was diagnosed with dyslexia.
But I've never been treated as if I was stupid.
Instead, the caring grandparents who raised her encouraged Brigida to focus on her strengths.
And I could do knitting and sewing and stuff long before most of my friends could.
That support not only inspired Brigida to pursue her passion professionally, it motivated a lifetime of volunteering to help others facing adversity.
Yeah, I don't like things that are not fair.
So, when she saw what was happening in Ukraine and thought of the girls experiencing war like she once did,
if I can raise a bit of money by doing a little bit of something else, then why on earth wouldn't I?
But Brigida never imagined her little handmade flags would end up raising a lot of money for the Red Cross in Ukraine.
I think I must be pretty close to having raised $20,000.
And the 87-year-old has no plans to quit, because like her big brother's bravery, like her grandparents' unconditional loving, Brigida is determined to make a positive difference in the lives of others.
We all have things that we can do. It may not be something that's earth-shaking, but at least you've tried to do something.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Saanich.
That's it for us. Thanks for watching. For your latest local headlines, you can always head to our website. I'm back tonight with your late news at 11. Bye for now.